let's talk about the Wii U. Now, after looking at the Wii U at this year's E3, I gotta tell you, I wasn't really that impressed with the system. For me, there's nothing Nintendo can do to win me over. And despite the title of this video, I don't want this to come off as a rant. But now that we know some more details about the Wii U, I think we need to ask ourselves some serious questions as consumers on where this system is headed. So without further ado, here are the top 10 reasons why the Wii U will fail. Now, coming in at reason number 10 is the controller is just way too big. Now, I have in my hands a first generation iPad, and if the details surrounding the Wii U's controller are any indication, it's going to be about this size when you hold it. Now, while I'm sure the controller itself will be a lot lighter than a first generation iPad, I have to say I feel very awkward just holding this device. It just looks uncomfortable to hold and not ergonomically designed at all. As an adult gamer, I really can't see myself playing a Wii U with this type of gamepad. Now, I know a lot of you are saying that there's an alternative hardcore controller that's similar to an Xbox 360 controller. Well, I have in my hands an Xbox 360 controller, but if you haven't seen this new controller that Nintendo is putting out, it's essentially the same configuration, only the buttons here on the Xbox controller are lower to where this analog stick is. And the analog stick here on the bottom is switched where the buttons are here at the top. Now, I'd have a hard time playing any video game with the buttons and the analog stick switched. So again, I think it'd be very awkward to control and would take a long time for me to get used to it. Coming up at number 9 is backwards compatibility. Now, it hasn't been confirmed or denied whether or not the new Wii U system will be backwards compatible with Wii games. But this issue of backwards compatibility is not only centered on Nintendo, but also pertains to Microsoft as well as Sony. Now, I'm hopeful that the new Wii U system will be backwards compatible with Wii games, as having backwards compatibility with a previous system adds value to that system. But if the Wii U isn't backwards compatible with the Wii, it's just another reason why this next generation system will fail. Coming in at reason number 8 is the low battery life of the Wii U pad's controller. Now, this one, unlike many of the reasons on the list, has been confirmed by Nintendo. It has been stated that the average battery life of a Wii U pad controller will be roughly 3 to 5 hours. For the hardcore video gamer, 3 to 5 hours is nothing for a single session. Again, I hate to bring up the iPad, but the one I have can easily get 5 to 10 hours on the brightest setting without having to be recharged. They're going to have to find a way to easily increase the battery life, or they're going to get a lot of complaints on their hands. Coming in at reason number 7 is the lack of long-term first and third-party games. First of all, I really wasn't impressed by the third-party lineup of games that will be available on launch for the Wii U, because a lot of them were games that were expected to be released or have already been released on competitive consoles. You have third-party titles like Batman Arkham City and Mass Effect 3 that have been released for months now on other consoles. And then you have third-party games like Assassin's Creed 3 that's going to be released at the same time as competitive consoles like the Sony PS3 and the Xbox 360. You have to ask yourself whether or not the Wii U will have enough games in its library to sustain itself going into the next 6 to 10 years of the product's life cycle. Because as we know, it's not the launch titles that matter. It's whether or not the system will have a consistent amount of great games being released throughout the product's life cycle. I mean, as many of you remember, the PS2 and the original Xbox had terrible launch titles. But as the years went on, they got better and better and really cultivated a new audience for itself. And this is not exclusive to the third-party titles. This is including Nintendo's lineup of games as well. Again, I hate to bring this up, but at this year's E3 we saw no Zelda, no Mario Kart, and no Metroid. So I'm worried not only will there not be enough third-party titles being released on the system, but also enough first-party titles being released by Nintendo. It's subtle, but for people who purchased the Wii in the past, they will be keeping a close eye on what games Nintendo will be releasing for this new Wii U system going into the fall. Now, reason number 6 on why the Wii U will fail is its high price point. Now again, this one is up to speculation, but it has been rumored that the Wii U will retail for $299. Now, if it retails for $299 as opposed to $500, which has been the starting price for many consoles in the past, I think it'll sell a great deal of consoles. But what you have to remember is it's 2012, not 2006, and people aren't as willing to shell out their disposable income for a $500 system. We have higher unemployment rates and a lot less people without jobs, especially in the States and up here in Canada. Now, I'm really hoping that Nintendo sticks to a $299 price point. I think if the initial purchase price for the system is $500, Nintendo has a real big problem on their hands. Now, reason number 5 is nitpicking more than anything else, but will people really want to play multiplayer on a Wii U pad? As you no doubt remember at this year's E3, they showcased the new Super Mario Bros. Game where they had 4 people playing, and the person with the Wii U pad could create blocks out of thin air. Now, these new blocks are really used only to access new areas and to get across levels that might otherwise be inaccessible. So while watching the E3 conference, I sat there and I thought, do I really want to be the only guy playing with a Wii U pad who has to create all these blocks? I remember one critic likened playing with the Wii U pad with other friends as playing bass guitar in Rock Band. And this is what really worries me, is that will one person be tasked with playing video games as a chore while the other ones are having fun? But again, this is something with the Wii pad that I think looked a lot better on paper, but when put in actual practice just fails miserably. You know, it's small. But again, these are the hard questions we have to ask. I really hope that playing a game without the Wii U pad can be just as fun as playing with it. Now, coming in at reason number 4 is a lack of a virtual store. Now, this one is a bit more abstract, but I think it's an issue that needs to be raised. One of the things I absolutely loved about the Wii system was the fact that you could download old school Nintendo games onto your system, whether it be from the original Nintendo or SNES, as well as more select titles from the GameCube and the N64. I like how the Wii was essentially this one-stop virtual shop that I could download past games from my childhood and play at a moment's notice. So you have to ask yourself whether or not the new Wii U system will have a feature this comprehensive. Will there be Wii U titles for sale and download on this new Wii U system, as there were GameCube titles for download on the Wii system? And then you have to ask yourself, how big will the data storage system be if you want to download a ton of these games from previous systems? Now, granted, old SNES and Nintendo games don't take up a lot of space. But what happens if you want to download a lot of Wii titles or a lot of GameCube titles? And this brings up the question of independent developers, which I was sad to see there weren't a lot of independent developers at the Nintendo conference. One of the things I like about the PlayStation Network, and respectively the Xbox Live Arcade Marketplace, is that it really fosters this great atmosphere of independent development. I really didn't see Nintendo making an effort to showcase any independent development on their part. But again, this ties into the virtual store that will be available on the Wii U. And while I love this virtual store, that'll no doubt be one of the high points of the Wii U, I really want to see them making an effort and fostering new creative talent through these independent developers. Now, coming in at reason number 3 is the Miiverse. Or as I like to call it, the first thing I'm going to do when I boot up my Wii U is draw a bunch of dicks. Honestly, I think this is the most boneheaded move that Nintendo could have done. The Miiverse is kind of this social space that appears the second you boot up your Wii U and is a forum where complete strangers can post text messages as well as pictures for you to see. Now, again, on paper, I'm sure this looked like a good idea. Now, what you have to remember with Nintendo is that it's a very kid-friendly forum, and giving complete strangers access to post pictures as well as text messages is really stupid. Now, I have heard that before an actual text message or picture can be posted, it's going to go through 5 levels of screening by Nintendo. They've even gone so far as to say that it'll take a minimum of a half an hour from the time you write the message to the time it's actually posted. I mean, what's the point of writing a text message or drawing a picture so your friends can see it if it's going to take a half an hour for it to be posted? Now, as big of an issue as this is, I think it brings up a bigger issue of censorship. One thing I've always loved about the PlayStation and the Xbox 360 is I can't swear, and I can talk to my friends uninhibited. I think Nintendo got to this point where they think they have to be Facebook in order to compete. But if the internet has taught us anything, there's a lot of assholes on Facebook. I don't want complete strangers to have access to my system, whether it be playing video games or on this online Miiverse social space. I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. I think they should scrap the idea immediately. And bottom line, I don't want to see a Miiverse the second I boot up this Wii U system. Now, coming in at reason number 2 is basic functions should not be a huge clusterfuck. Say you're playing Call of Duty or Battlefield 3, and you want to quickly change your weapons. What do? Well, you take your hands off the joystick for half a second and change your weapon. But say you're playing Zombie U on this new Wii U system, and you're being chased by hordes of the undead. So you're running, and you come to a secure door, and the television prompts you to look down on your Wii U controller screen. So what happens when you're playing a first-person shooter and you have to physically move your eyes from the TV to your Wii U pad and physically touch which weapons you want to use on the touchscreen itself? I don't want my games to be one big chore where I'm constantly looking up and down from my television to my Wii U pad. I think it's a dumb decision from a gameplay standpoint. I still think it's a dumb decision from a technical standpoint. And then Nintendo somehow got this idea in their head where having 2 screens equals innovation, which is actually the furthest thing from the truth. But the thing that got to me the most was reason number 1, and that was no online multiplayer. I don't think I saw a single frame of online multiplayer with the Nintendo conference. I saw local multiplayer with Super Mario Bros. And Luigi's Mansion 2, but I have no idea. Whether or not online multiplayer will be available on this new system. There's a lot of reasons why a lot of us enjoy online multiplayer, and it really boils down to 2 reasons. The first is it adds value to a game. It's separate from the first player campaign, and it gives us hours upon hours of gameplay that we wouldn't have enjoyed if we didn't have it in the game. But also we get to play with full flesh and blood humans online, either competitively or cooperatively. It's what the adult hardcore gaming public wants. And even if you do expect to have online multiplayer on the Wii U, that's not the current perception of your new system. And for Nintendo to have the gall not to show any online multiplayer at all just pissed me off to no end. Now, if you happen to disagree with one of my reasons, or you have your own reason why you hate the Wii U system coming out, feel free to post a comment on my channel. That being said, I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching. As always, feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe to my channel.